Yeah, so now I'm going to enter some information in the database so that we can see what's available already. That's a little bit small, but most of you should be there. If not, please let me know. So if you recognize your name, write down that's your username on the left, and you all have the same password. That's IMAPWD. It's a capital P, and there at the top is the prototype. So if you want to try it out and try to enter some data, that's helpful. Are you all there? Is anyone that is not on the list? No, all there? Okay. Right. So, okay. So this is the prototype. It's not going to look very pretty or anything. It's just it's very basic. It's just for us to try out a couple of things. So as you can see, the first thing that it can do is to actually search for something and not immediately allowed to enter new data. These are I've done this just with the idea of showing that you need to make sure that there is no information, that you're not going to duplicate information.
Is it worth mentioning now the URL that people would go to if they want to enter a URL?
Yeah,
it's right there. Just point it out
here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Must be my confusion. Go ahead.
And I'm going to, and you can see here that there is a contributor. I'm being an administrator, I can choose the origin, but I'm going to use I'm going to enter that under my own authority, let's say. Even though in fact I'm going to get information from the Paradox Community of Scotland. We're going to enter information about this physician, Anthony Lombard. And one of the reasons why we thought it was a good idea entering someone from Paradox Community of Scotland is that I'll show you then how it would be possible with a very simple mechanism to link the two entries together. Okay, so the first thing is Anthony, but there are no results, so now I can finally create something. So I'm going to create my entity. So this is the form now. The idea is that if this project takes off, etc., then I would imagine that a lot of work will be spent also in making an interface that it's easy to use and will kind of guide you through entering the data a lot better. And I think there is also an interesting interface design challenge that this project will have, because as John said before, it's not. We are going to put this out there somehow. We won't have control of a team that we can train to enter data. So it has to be as simple as possible, also as complete as possible at the same time. That is a challenge. But anyway, the first thing that I want to do is define, now I've just created a generic entity. And I'm going to say what it is. So I'm going to say that it's a manus, first of all, because we mentioned about a physician. And then I'm going to move on and create a name. So this is the first topic that we can talk about. So this moved us to a different page. Also, I would like this to be a bit of an interactive session if we can. So now I'll show you what is possible to do while entering the name, and then if you want to come up with some comments or some suggestions of what you would like to see on this kind of data entry page, let me know. So, for example, here we have a list of name types. I think this is really not complete at all, and we need to reflect a bit more on what kind of types of names we might have. So, for example, I'm just going to say that this is a given name, but then forget location and event for a moment, but just focus on identity, for example, I created. That is because many times these many are known by different names. So how do you deal with the given birth name and then any other name they're known by? Especially when we were dealing with a Arabic names. That is, the name changes a lot, and it's a bit of a curriculum that comes with you, and a bit of a family history as well. So in this case, I'm going to say it's a given name. It will be in English. The script is Latin. I mean,
Sorry.
Yeah.
For allocation and event, are these anonymous?
No, they're Arabic names,
Okay.
where you al-Baghdadi, because he's been living in Baghdad.
So then, there will be a list of languages. Now I think I already have, Arabic, English, Arabic, but then, different kind of scripts. These are, the information that ends up there, it's under our control. So the idea is that, support to just sit down and figure out what should go there. And hopefully it will be quite long at the end. Okay, and then this is an important thing, that is a display form. That is basically it's only what the user is going to read, let's say. In this case I have Anthony Lombard. Okay, and this is preferred here. I'm going to check it because I will be able to insert a large number of names for the same identity if I want to, for the same entity if I want to. So that if the manifest is known by different names, then they can all be handled, but I can specify for the system that this one is the one that I want to show up when you do the search, for example. But then, more interestingly, you can define the different parts of the name. So in this case, we have it's a simple case because we only have a forename and surname, but again, in Arabic names, for example, there are sort of different types. So again, the type of part of name, that's something that we need to think about and to grow. But in this case, it's very easy. We have forename is going to be in English, and with the Latin script, it's Anthony. And then we have surname, Lombard. Although, I guess that one could actually argue that this is a toponymic of some sort. Maybe. What else? Because it's Lombard.
Maybe.
So, that's it, so yeah. Okay. So I'm going to add this name, and now it appears here. But I want to quickly create another name that, I'm just going to use identity because it's sort of a different way, a different name by the same person was known, and it's the Latin form, Antonius Lombardus. So that's how he's referred to in official records, for example, things like that. So I'm not going to check that he's preferred this time, and just for simplicity, I'm not going to break the name down, but you could break it down in different parts. Because what I want to show you is that we thought that it was necessary to explain what the relationship between all these different names are. So for example, in this case, I can say that Antonius Lombardus is in fact a translation of Anthony Lombard. Okay, so in this way I'm creating a relationship between names, and that could be extremely helpful when, especially when we're dealing with transliteration, and that's another thing that it's all of. But again, this list that you see here, this list of relationship between names, again, it's under our control, so we're looking for comments on what else should be there. What can you think of any other relationships that there might be between different names given to the same manuscripts? Okay. Another thing that this system does very well, in my opinion, is the fact that every single assertion, that is, anything that a contributor says about the manuscript, like for example, an assertion is this manuscript has the name Anthony Lombard, or then another assertion is Antonius Lombardus is a translation of Anthony Lombard. So it's a collection of these kind of statements, okay, assertions. And to each of these assertions, it's then possible to add a date, right? So I could, for example, imagine that Anthony Lombard was known by a completely different name for a certain period of time. Let's make it a bit romantic because he was hiding from somebody. He takes up a pseudonym or something like that. Then it would be possible to have a date specified from when to when, right? And that could be useful.
And again, that's particularly interesting with the Arabic names, where people during their career accumulate more and more names, and you can date after such and such a year, he's called al-Baghdadi because that's when he moved to Baghdad. And then a little later, he went to Damascus. And so you get this cumulative build-up. And actually, once you've cracked the Arabic names, most of the other forms we have to deal with are pretty easy by comparison. Because that is such a complex and fluid system.
Do you have any comments so far about?
Yes.
Okay.
Two questions. What about redefinition?
We just haven't had it
If
yet.
there, what do you mean? If there's support for the characters?
Yes, and for the name, and the other question about naming and sources. For example, in the same source, you have monoraitis, monaritis, and source may be qualified. Imagine you have a copy of the original. In the original, it is written monaritis, and the copyist too much red wine, and he writes something different, but it's the same person. And so maybe you should not only have the date, but also the source, and maybe the reliability of this source.
Right. By reliability, what do you mean by reliability? Like how would you measure that?
Well, sometimes it's very easy to say, well, this is a copy from this and this person, and he didn't pay much attention to the names, so he miswrote it. But we know it, but other people copying this manuscript, of course, know only this name was misspelled by this copyist who didn't pay attention. So you can have some other relationships. If you have a little bit more of criteria, and you have seen this nice graphs between persons and so on, and so if you have this set of data, you are not restricted only to the names and to the day, but you can have much other relationships between them.
Yeah. Well, this is something that we didn't completely think about.
I believe that we will end up wanting to provide a source to, in some sense, provide the source for each assertion.
Yeah.
If every entry in the database is an assertion by the person who makes the entry,
Yes.
and if you assert, the assertion would be, he has called this in this manuscript, and he's called that in that manuscript. I think the discussion of the relationship between the two manuscripts probably belongs somewhere else. You want to be able to get to it, perhaps at the level of where the listing of the manuscripts is, because you could say manuscript B is a copy of manuscript A, and there you might have an annotation which said, but it's a lot less reliable. But I don't think you'd have it at this level, because here the assertion is simply the statement that the name is given.
Our common practice has been to provide as well, every time you make a recorded assertion like this, there's a place for a note field you can say
Yes.
so. So if you know that this person is particularly poor at transcribing names,
Yeah.
because I'm interested in that, you could put a note in there to say that.
Okay, but I think we need a source. So,
I think the source is right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most serious deficiency
Yes,
working in this particular model. At present.
But then, because we've had this discussion before, of course,
Yeah.
it's not just the name, that's just the beginning. And the question is, we have to find a realistic way to make this happen if we do want this to happen.